Uh, it was not intentional, but to have Biryah and Parshat Vayishlach come together, right, is like, I mean, that's the best. No? No? Everyone's gone through the Parsha, at least, the first couple aliyot, right? Um, but why? I mean, it's like so pshita, but let's throw it out. Why is it so appropriate?
Get an Asha.
Gita Nasha, right? Gita Nasha what is Gita Nasha in terms of Birya? Besides being a Birya? Like in the world of Shas.
The paradigm?
Is the paradigm of the well paradigm not I mean there's actually several things that are called birya in Shas, right? Sipor Tameh, right? But it is the one case where we learn what about birya. Go for it. No, no, no. I mean,
It's not batel.
not Batel, right? That's if for all of you, like we did the Mishnah, right, in Parakid Anasheh about birya v'im eno makiro akol, was that kol psulim, right? It's like, and we didn't bring it up. Like, why? This is what the Gemara's question. Like libatel beruva, right? Like, what are you talking about? Three gidim, right? Two are the normal kosher gidim, and one's gid anasheh. It should be batel. So why not? Because of this concept of birya, right? Of course, the question is, what is a birria? And we'll get to that. We're going to pause on what is a birria. But before we get to what is a birria, the fact that it's not but betela, we won't get into how you pronounce it, by the way. There you could say bria, birria. Maybe it depends on what you say in the first blessing of Birkat Hamazon, right? You say briotav or biriotav? Any people have different, no, different takes on that. We're not going to answer that question. I'll let you think about that when you say Birkat Hamazon next. But Biryah is the fact that it's not Betela is what? What level of not Batel?
Rabbanan.
Yeah, seemingly Derabanan. There is apparently some argument out there, but some people think it's Deraita. But it seems the overwhelming opinion, the opinion of the Machaber, seems to be Derabanan, right? It's not that it's that Deraita it would be Batel, and Derabanan it's not. So of course the question, whenever we have, when we have like a law of Deraita, we can ask the question of to why, but the why is, let's say, semi-significant, but not that significant. Maybe it's something that helping us understand how to apply it, but not, But Derabanan, we always have to ask why, right? Because we have to know why did the Chachamim make this gezerah? So there's. Oh, by the way, I'm going to pause for a second. I forgot to do this. It was supposed to be my intro. I was going to do. Also, today is on the non-Jewish calendar, December 1st. It's Rav Lennis's birthday, I believe. So we should also, learn and honor that Rav Lennis should live many, many more years in good health. And so. I forgot to say that. Anyway, let's go back. Why did this is good. If he watches the recording, he'll like watch the first few minutes. He forgot my birthday, and then he'll just like, give up on it. So but why is Birya not Batel? We're gonna get ourselves into some other cases of things that are not Batel. The Chatia Riyali Kabed, Devar Shesh Matirin, all that stuff. But why Birya? Some of them may have actually similar connections to them, some of these categories. Because I think there's two approaches to why Birya is not Batel. They kind of intersect with each other, but the question is which is motivating. Maybe you saw these, hopefully, in some of the sources. Anybody? Let me ask it this way. If I eat a tzipor tameh, right, which we all agree is a birria. Good. Max doesn't jump in. Chashivut. I was going the other way. But all right, chashivut. What's chashivut?
Could be like something that you pay attention to,
Yeah, it's
that
important.
you're wary of.
Good. And why would something that's has that is chashuv not batel?
Because no matter how small it is, it's still it, you know it's there, and so I don't know, your mind is on it or something like that.
Yeah, it's almost as if like it's not. It's almost like never gone, right? It's because it's chashuv, right? The whole thing of bitul, right? The whole principle of bitul is, and this is a little bit from my own kind of take, but I think other people have similar takes on it that I've heard, is that the whole concept of bitul is to make something into nothing, right? And something that's chashuv maybe can't be ever made into nothing, at least derabanan. Okay. Deraita, yeah, deraita, the simple, deraita just seems to be about like can you tell it's there or not? It's but but yeah, maybe chashiva. The other thing that might be motivating it is what if I eat if I eat a piece of treif meat, how much do I have to eat to get malkut?
Desire.
Because if I eat a birya, how much do I need to eat to get malkut?
Mashehu.
Yeah, mashahu. Right. So this now there's a big question that comes up is the reason that you get makot because for even eating less than kazait of a birya because it is chashuv or chashuva, or is the fact that you get malkot what makes it chashuv, right? It's like which motivates you. There could be some slight nafkaminas about with those two things, but I just want to kind of have those in your head as kind of background to this whole thing. Okay. Um, Should I repeat that? Are we feeling good about those two motivations here? Right. So the rabbis would say, so why, if you get, malkut for eating, a very tiny birria, as long as it's a birria, which we haven't defined what a birria is yet, but for the moment, let's say it's something that is shalem, right? We'll have to say that at least. Why is it that the rabbis would then say that it's not batel?
I'm trying to use like the reasoning that's brought that there was an isser, a specific isser on that thing since it was created, right? Like it came into being,
Hmm.
depending on what it is, with that isser. So it's I guess wholly its wholeness is wholly asur. So therefore, any part that you have of that is touching a whole lisser, as opposed to other foods where, there's some kind of transformation or mix or something that happens to it, or it didn't receive, like in the case of a nevela, it didn't have to be an nevela, but it ended up being nevela. A birria is, you know, because it's a whole thing,
Hmm.
every piece of it contains the whole isser.
Good. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I think there's also a seriousness to it, right? Like if I eat the whole thing, it doesn't matter how big it is, right? I'm getting makot at the end of the day.
Right,
Um,
but it's more than that because it's not being buttoed in something else. So its wholeness is able to transfer to this other food in a way that other things aren't.
oh, interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I like that. I would even maybe go as far as to say that the fact you get makot, no matter how much it is like the size doesn't matter, and therefore size is no longer a factor, derabanan, at least in bittul, right? In that sense, right? This is something where size is less of a factor than other things, at least, so. Um, Okay, good. That's just the background I wanted to talk about in terms of we haven't defined what birria is, which we're going to look at now, which really comes down to, I would say, kind of there's several different Tosfots all over the place about what is birria and how they define it. There's one in Makot, there's one in Zvachim, there's one in Hulin. But I think the Rosh is really like kind of the culmination of the Tosafist school in some ways. There's also the Rashi school, and the Run is the other school, right? And then I'd say we're going to get to the Machaber school, which anybody notice, like, what does the Machaber do? That's kind of interesting as a move here with the two schools of like what the laws are of Birya. If you don't have an answer yet, we can come back to it. Oh, good. Max is, integrating. Yeah, he puts them all together, right? Which is actually kind of fascinating. Like that he does that. Which when he puts them all together, is that a move of being Machmir or a move of being Makil?
I mean, I think that depends on your perspective. I think he's trying to make sure that nothing that's been labeled Iberia is getting left out um, in a way that's not always
I
super.
Yeah, I think it's the other way, kind of, because it's an and, not an or statement, right? It has to have all of these categories and not
Mm.
one of these categories. So it's actually a make-ill thing. The more categories you add, the fewer things fall into the category of Birya. We're going to see that there's one, maybe I'll ask it outside. There's one example of Birya that the Mechaber gives. I think I remember this correctly. We'll look. That doesn't appear in the tour.
Is it the pizza?
Yeah, the Beit Sat Efroach, which itself is interesting because actually, what level of Isur is on the Beit Sat Efroach?
That's Aver Minachai, isn't it?
Beit Sat Efroach is not Ever Minachai. No. It's actually there's a little bit of debate. It's a derabanan, actually, eating a beitzat tefrach. So it's actually interesting because it's a gezerah. We'll get into this when we look at the shach. I think it's the no, the taz. Sorry, but the that there are isurim derabanan that are that can fall under the restriction of Biryah, at least according to the Machaber. So okay, let's jump in. Everyone open to the tour kuf. And just to give a plan, like, so I asked my initial questions. We're going to really spend some time defining Biryah, looking at some of the sources on that. And what does it mean that it's not batel? And then when we're going to spend the next half, really, I will do a few other things, but really I want to talk about bugs because the truth is that I think this topic on the average day to day comes up more, unless I'm wrong, I think it probably comes up by far more often about bugs than anything else, right? And when bug checking, what counts as a bug, why bugs are not batel as Biryah, and maybe how do we deal with the world where bugs are everywhere. So they are. We've been in it's an infestation, as we'll see. Did people see the Aruch HaShulchan? Okay, good. We'll get there. Okay, let's start out Kuf in the tour. Let's just read. Yeah, let's actually read through the tour to begin with. So maybe Ori wants to read. Go ahead.
כל דבר שהוא ביריה, כגון נמלה או עוף טמא, וגיד הנשה, ועבר מן החי, וכיוצא בזה, שאם יחלק אין שמו עליו, אינו בטל לעולם. So anything that is a birya, some examples are an ant, a non-kosher bird, the gid hanashe, limb of a living animal, anything like that. Kayotze bazesh. And if you were to divide these, what makes it a birya? If you were to divide these things, they would not have the same name. That kind of thing is not batel at all.
Yeah, good. That's the
Olam
is like so.
Ad infinitum. I don't know if that's the right.
What'd you say for that?
Ad infinitum
Ad infinitum? Yeah, it's something.
in this case.
Yeah, which means like right. It's the way the Chachamim always put this. It's not even chat be'elef, right? It's 1 in 1,000. Although we'll see. Is it the Rashba? Somebody has a. I think the Rashba brings a 1 in 1,200 version of Betul, which is actually fascinating. But we'll see when we get to the Beit Yosef Aleph parentheses bet, which apparently Isaac tells me in his version is a little bit different. We'll see different versions of maybe it is batel in some cases.
No, the text is the same. It's just labeled differently.
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. The label, which is not original to the Beit Yosef, I don't think. So, okay, good. And this is right. The only real definition that the Torah gives, right, is she'im yechalek ein shmo alav. If you divide it up, it's no longer keeps its name, right? That's the definition of Biryah, and he gives 4 examples, which are hard to kind of pin down a little bit. So I don't know if people have more they want to say about that for the moment. But who does this follow, by the way, that if you divide it up, it no longer keeps its name as kind of the main definition of Biryah?
I think this is the Rosh.
The Rosh, yeah, which is his father. Like, not too surprising that he would follow that. Okay. Good. Let's do a little bit more, Ori. Keep reading the Torah.
Yep, ואם נתבשל עם ההתר, אם אינו מכירו, הכל אסור. So if it gets cooked with something permissible, if you can't recognize it anymore, like it's dissolved, I suppose, and then it's
it can't be dissolved because we'll see this because if it's like completely
that would be
ripped up, that's not the thing. It's probably that you can't tell if it's there or not anymore. So the way I think about this, like an ant crawls into your soup. Now maybe it does dissolve in your soup. I don't know, but an ant, or even better, well, actually, here's the thing. The truth is, up until now, we've been talking about lach belach almost exclusively, and here we're talking about either yavesh belach or yavesh beyavesh, which is really where Biryah comes in. So you can imagine, cooking, I don't know, a bunch of gidim together, right? That's actually a really, good example. One of them is the gid hanasheh, or if you cooked a bunch of Avarim and one of them was an Avar Minachai or something like that, so Isaac, did you have a hand there that I saw?
No, the cat's having a panic attack. I got to run out for a second.
Oh yeah, no, no worries. So, I mean, worries because the cat's having a panic attack. I hope it stops. But Ori, keep going. Okay, so
Afilu
if you ain makiro kol asur, all right.
afilu hin elef, even if it's 1,000 to 1.
Mhm.
Aval harotev talui b'netinat ta'am. But just the sauce would only apply if it gave it flavor. She'im yesh beheter shishim keneged habiryah harotev mutar. Because if there's 60 against the biryah, at least the sauce, the liquid, is allowed.
Mhm.
Sha'af al pi she'ikaro eino batel, ta'amo batel. So the actual birria itself would not be canceled out, but its flavor could be canceled out.
Yeah. So we can say, right, for
This is
birria,
basically,
go
sorry, is
ahead.
this in other words what you were just saying that this is Yavish? This basically points us towards Yavish B'Yavish or Yavish Balach.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's not lach balach, right? In other words, the ta'am of a birria is not like the birria, right? I mean, it maybe tastes like the birria. Girin Asha has no ta'am, right? But the the ta'am, unlike up until now, we've been operating in a world where tam ki kar. Here, tam was not ki kar. The tam of the birria fits all the other. There's no derabanan that says the tam of birria is not batel. That fits all the other rules of bitul. The birria itself, though, right? That is not batel. And so, if the birria is in there and you can't find it, or you have a good reason to believe there's a birria there, which is what we're going to get into a little bit with kind of a chazaka on the buggy vegetables and fruits and so forth. There you have your problem. So, okay, good. Do a little bit more. Keep going.
V'imakiro zorko. And if you can still see it, then you take it out. V'acherim v'arotev tluim b'netinat ta'am. And then everything that's left, other whole pieces, the sauce again, tluin, the liquid, tluin b'netinat ta'am. Those depend on if it gave flavor or not. Shim yesh b'chol shishim keneged habirya mutarin v'imlam masurim. So it's essentially reiterating the same thing, but if you can completely remove it, then even the other whole things that are in there are okay. But that's because I can see it and I can remove it.
Exactly.
חוץ מגרנשה שאין טעמו אוסר, דקיימלן אין בגידין בנותן טעם. Except for giranasha, which is different because its flavor does not make other things forbidden. Like we saw in Begidin Benotain time, because Gidin don't give flavor.
Yeah, we're poskening there actually. It was a machloket, but we're deciding that aim gidim don't have tam, and therefore you don't need 60 to 1 for the sauce against the gid, as long as you recognize the gid on Asha and you threw it away. So okay.
Keep going.
Yeah.
About shumano asur, but its fats would be forbidden, midirabanan. Litzarich shishim kenegdo lahatir harotev, and you need 60 against that. So this isn't about the gidin, something that actually comes out of the gidin.
Oh, it's the fat around the gid actually is right. Is the gid is kind of I think I've never looked too much into this, but it's like there's a layer of fat around it, and there's a derabanan isur lest you come to eat the gid hanasheh. So okay.
Hilkach yerach shnitpashel im gido im makiro zorko. So therefore, if you have the whole hind quarter, is that what you call yerach?
Yeah, I like that.
Shnitpashel im gido, that's cooked with its gid. Im makiro zorko. If you can still see it, you just take it out. The chol hashar mutar, and the rest of it's allowed. Im yesh bo shishim kenegdo keneged shumano. As long as there's 60 times the actual sort of fats of the gid. But if you can't tell which it is, then all of the pieces are now asur. ואם יש בקטרה 60 כנגד השומן, אז הרוטב מותר, ואם לאו אסור. But if we have in the pot 60 against the fat, then that liquid would be allowed. If not, then not allowed. ואם נימוח שאינו ניכר, but if it's already melted, so we can't tell what it is, צריך גם כן 60 כנגדו. You still need 60 against it. דאף על פי שאין בו טעם, even though it doesn't have flavor, והוא כעץ התורה אסרתו. והוא כעץ. Even though it has no flavor and it's like wood.
In other words,
The
like
Torah.
flavorless, right? It would, presents no flavor to the things around it. So
The Torah is still asering
yeah.
the gid.
So just to like summarize that a little bit, tell me if I'm right here, is the geed, right, itself imparts no flavor. If the geed is in there though, and is not dissolved, but is still like intact in there somewhere, you just don't know where it is, then it's osir everything. If the geed isn't intact and like gets melted up inside everything. Sorry, I'm back up. The liquid though, because the liquid isn't the geed anashet, it just has the flavor or lack thereof of the geed anashet. That just needs that's fine. But it needs to have 60 against the shuman because that does impart flavor, derabanan. And if the geed is melted in there, though, you do need 60 against the geed, just because that's the rule. That's the rule of the Torah, right? At the end of the day, the Torah says geed is asur, so you need 60 against it, not because of ta'am, but just because that's the rule. So, okay, that's good. This is right. Something that I don't know for all of you, I don't encounter this so often nowadays, at least in America in particular, to get there. Is it the filet mignon is the one, the piece, the cut that has the gid hanashen? Is that right? And it's very hard to find kosher establishments that even serve it, if you even eat meat. But if they did, if they cooked it with that piece with the gid in it, and then they were able to b'diavad, they didn't do it like, oh, I'm going to cook it in there and it'll be great and then I'm going to take it out, right? But they made a mistake. They forgot to take it out. And they take it out after the fact. If they have 60-1 against the shuman and they take the geed out, you're fine. You're good to go. So, but it can be very scary if you don't know which one it is that you left the geed in, right? If you cook a bunch of filet mignon, well, I don't know what the plural of filets mignon, I guess would be I have no clue. I don't know, but whatever the plural is of them, you cooked a whole bunch of them together, and then you you did your nikur to get rid of the geed, and you count up all your gidim, and you're like, well, we cooked 100 of these fillets, and we only have 99 gidim, right? And then you are in trouble because you don't know which one it is, and maybe you've already started serving them, right? And they're all asur at that point. So, did we say correctly? Does that sound good? Yeah, no, yeah, okay. But Gita Nasha, that's keep going a little bit more. You're doing great. So
okay. יש אומרים דבריה.
Biryah.
Thank you. יש אומרים דביריה בטלה ב-960. So there are those who would say that 960 would be enough to cancel it. But that was not clear to my father, the Rosh.
Good. And the Rosh is the one who brings that. He's not the only one. It's where's that from? Just we'll see this in the page. Joseph, remember where we get the 960?
It's about if you have some sort of Easter fall in your tzir, which is like that fish sauce.
Yeah, tzir is brine, right, in general, but it's good. I could finally remember the word. All day I was thinking about tzir and I couldn't remember what the right English word was, but it's brine. There's
What's the word for the fish sauce? It's like morcos or something.
Maybe, I don't know. There's a Mishnah in Trumot, right, in the 10th chapter. It's I think third Mishnah, something like that, right? About that. That's about seer. It's just about if you have a dag tameh with a bunch of dagim torim, and there's this interesting ratio that the Yerushalmi understands as 1 and 960, but it's not actually that case, because that case is really about the seer and lach belach at the end of the day. It's really about there's a case in the Yerushalmi about an achbar, right? Achbara that falls into tzir and is Rav Boon. I can't remember who. Rebbe Boon. It's Rebbe Boon who's matir, and in the same ratio of this guy.
Yossi Ben Boon.
Is Yossi Ben Boon? Thank you, Yossi
Yeah.
Ben Boon. Uh, and so the whole question about is that case a Biryah case? Is it maybe Akbar is the place, right, and all that? So that's really where we get this 1 in 960, which will be an important thing at the end of the day. So okay, good. How are we doing? Yeah, a little bit in. Let's jump into the Beit Yosef. Start with Aleph. Who wants to read next? Clearly not Eitan. He like to abandon us. Just for that, Eitan, you get to read next. In the Beit Yosef, Aleph parentheses Aleph, the beginning of the Beit Yosef.
כל דבר שהוא בריאה, כגון נמלה או עוף טמא או איבר מן החי וכיוצא בזה, שאם יחלק, אין שמו עליו, אינו בטל לעולם. בפרק גיד הנשה, ההצנן, דגיד הנשה שנתבשל עם הגידים, אם אינו מכירו כולם אסורים, פריך בגמרא בליבטל ברובה, ומשנה בריאה שנה, ומשנה בריאה שנה, V'dayek Rabbeinu.
Oh, good. Actually, we said all this, but I don't know, any questions about that piece in the sugya there? Keep going. Don't translate it. Just keep going.
V'dayek Rabbeinu b'mash amar of tameh te'ilu of tahor shenit navel lo mikre birya. V'chen katav sham haran v'arashba zal v'zel shono.
Yeah, keep going. Yeah, keep going.
Okay. V'had degid mikre bria v'chein iver min achai v'dag tameh v'ov tameh aval lo ov tahor metz de'amar lekaman b'hai pirka amar rav achal tzipor Torah b'chaya b'chol shehu b'mitata b'kazait v'tmea bein b'chayeha bein b'mitata b'chol shehu. V'perish Rashi de nevela lo mikraya bria shelo hayta nevela kshe notzra aval gid ve'of tameh ve'ever min achai chal isurin maaseh misha'a shenotru.
Good. Okay, you could give us a summary from there. And
okay, well, I would say, right, the summary is that something is a bria when it is created as a bria, but not if it starts out not a bria, not if it starts out as something potentially kosher, like an oaf tahor, and then becomes unkosher if it was like slaughtered the wrong way or something. That wouldn't be a bria. A bria is defined as
good. Yes, exactly. Well, slaughtered the wrong way is an interesting question, actually. Right? Did anyone see the Bach Aleph? Rav Lexi saw the Bach Aleph. Max saw the Bach Aleph. Right?
This was the Shari Dura, right?
Yes, I believe that's correct. That's who we quoted it from. But what's I mean, in the end, he rules that no, if he rules that it is, it's not a birya, right? But what's the reason that maybe if it's slaughtered incorrectly, it wouldn't be a birya?
I think you mean that it would be a birya.
Oh, sorry, it would be a birya. Sorry, yes, I did say that wrong. It would be a birya.
Because maybe it has before it was shechted, it was an Aver Min Achai, and then it was and only afterwards it was a Nevela. So actually, like there's always been an Isser Chal on it. It's just changed.
Yeah, it may even be still Aver Min Achai in some ways, right? That's kind of the way he's defining bad shechita. He disagrees with it, but I just want to throw that out there as a possibility. That's why I wanted you to see that. So okay, good. That's the Bach. It's not something we're going to worry about too much. But yeah, it has to be something. And Rashi, the way you said it, Rashi explains, right? Nevila lo mikra birya shelo hayta Rashi nevila lo mikra birya shelo hayta nevila keshenotzra, right? It has to have been a birya from its origin, right? This is the way Rashi understands it. This is the Rashi school on birya. Okay, that helps us with that a little bit. But now we're going to have our big problem. This is like what presents everybody kind of the problem of defining birya, which is do a little bit more, Eitan.
V'kasheh והרי חלב המכסה את הקרב וחלב הכליות ועורלה וכליה הכרס תסיר
Karam, Bikila Karam, right? This is
Karam,
when
that's
you
right.
your vineyard with mixed produce in it, right?
Right. De asiri mitchilat briatan uvetile. So we have all these examples of things that seem to be created as asur things, but still they can be canceled.
Mhm.
ויש לומר, דכל דבר שאם יחלק אין שמו עליו נקרא בריאה, דעוף טמא שלא נקרא עוף, וכשאין שלם אין קוראים אותו עוף, אלא חתיכת עוף טמא, וכן גיד נקרא חתיכת גיד, וכן איבר מן החי נקרא חתיכת איבר, אבל נבלה אפילו חתוכה קרויה נבלה, דכל דבר שנתנבל קרוי נבלה ואינו שם העצם. וכן שור הנסכל לא מקרה בריאה כדמוכח.
But sure, on these skulls for a different reason. So that's yeah. But so good. What's going on there? Explain.
So now he's almost making like a linguistic argument. It seems like he's saying something is called a bria when when it's still whole, because once you start cutting it up, you no longer sort of call it an oath, you call it a piece of oath, which is not the same thing with nevela, where it's like a piece of nevela or a whole nevela is always just called nevela.
Good. I want
So
to be meduyak though about something you said there. It's not that we will see the explanation that it loses birya status when it's cut up, but it's something is only a birya if it's not called by the same name when it's cut up as when it's whole, right? So yeah, is a nevela, if a piece of a nevela, I still call a nevela. I don't call it a piece of nevela according to this, right? On the other hand, an oaf tameh, I no longer call it oaf tameh when it's chopped up, or a nemela, right? Nemela, yeah. I don't call it an ant when instead I call it a piece of an ant when it's chopped up. Rav Lexi.
Right. And the thing is, like, each of these qualifications obviously was thought up to explain why something that seemingly feels like it should fall within the category doesn't. And this one versus like the Ron's qualifications about like things being mukbatsim are both especially geared towards like chalev, right? That like the question of like why isn't fat's forbidden from the get-go? Like, why shouldn't that be a birria? And so, like, we'll see the Ron has a different answer, but according to this, it's like chaylev is always chaylev. It doesn't matter how much chaylev you have, it's just fat,
Mhm.
right? And so, therefore, it doesn't meet this particular qualification.
Yeah. Can anybody, by the way, Eitan, you said it's a linguistic answer, and that was usually the way for a long time I thought about it. It's like it's a linguistic thing. I think a lot about linguistics and how they overlap with Isser V'Heter in terms of like what we call meat, right? Fits in nicely into a category. We'll get this when we get to Basar B'Chalav. I think, into a category from Nidarim of if I am bleed neder, if I made a neder against eating meat, what would count and stuff like it follows language. I think this isn't just a linguistic argument, though. Can anybody think
This
of
also, to
yeah.
some extent, kind of an etche darkolim note concept.
You say
Wait,
more.
I'm always, I hope I got the right one because I'm always confusing et and kol. But if the idea is that you can't, with etche darkolim note, like that you're always going to think of it as its own distinct unit and you're not
Mhm.
going to discount it, right? Like you can't have a dinner party for 10 with 9 steaks, right?
Yeah.
And so you can't cancel out a steak because I mean, that also has chatik kabed, but whatever, let's leave that aside. And so when you chop something up, it's now, it's its own unit in and of itself. And so perhaps, I'm not sure this is going to work as an idea, but
Good. I think
it's
you're
its own
starting.
unit in and of itself.
Yeah.
Hang on. And so therefore, in a sense, it has its own shlemut,
Yeah. I'd say
right? So this goes back to the question of like, does size matter? And it's like, well, it doesn't because it's still shlema. It's just a different type of shlema,
good. It's
right?
not just
Before it was an
shlemut.
oath, and now it's a hatichat oath.
Yeah. Just remember, we're not talking about shlemut here, though. Quite. So it's
Right, but I'm saying like, I think you could see the two as linked. Do you know what I'm saying?
yeah. No, I see that. Good. Rav Lexi, you look like you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is about chashivas, this idea that like this is in some ways a stand-in for one way in which we indicate that something is significant. Like a whole roast chicken has a significance that like a really different distinctive significance, same thing, whatever, a lot of people just did Thanksgiving, like a whole big roast turkey that you put on like one platter, like there's a reason that's so chashuv and like is so distinctive. For most not super rich families, you don't like put a full roasted bird like just on your table for a day-to-day dinner. And so like you relate differently to, oh, I'm roasting a turkey versus like, oh, I'm cooking some turkey for dinner, right? That like yeah, like you can cut the turkey like, okay, yeah, exactly, Max. Like it's a whole big affair because that's like it has a significance that's different than like, oh, I'm cooking some turkey legs. Um, right? That's just like some food that you
Mhm.
make, right? And so I think part of the idea is whereas like chaylev, the fact that it's always just kind of chaylev, whether it's like a little lump of chaylev or a big lump of chaylev, theoretically you can say that's partially because there isn't such a big distinction between them. The fact that it's not so chashuv to begin with is why a lot of chaylev is chaylev, a little chaylev is chaylev. Whereas the things where the name changes, it's because the original whole entity had more significance.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, it's, even, add to that, the language follows the chashivut, right? In some ways here, right? It's our language represents the chashivut more than the chashivut is because of the language. I think that's right. I have no great proof of it, but it just feels accurate to me. Um, but Eitan and Omer are just going to keep changing backgrounds on me. This is great. So, did they kick you? Did they kick you out? Did they like we don't like Torah going on, and we're going to kick you out? This is
There's a we were in a classroom, and there's a class in that classroom, it turns out, at 2:40.
They generally don't really like Torah here.
What was the class?
I won't say where we are.
Did you challenge him? Did you
It
say?
was like Bittul Torah 101.
Did you say is our Torah is your Torah better than our Torah that we have to move? This
We
is
actually walked into a class where I don't know the context, but it says something about the Gedi on the board right behind us.
look at that, look at that. So but okay, so good. We are Eitan, do you remember where you left off here?
Yes, v'chein ashur aniskal.
Good, yes, go for that.
V'chein shor aniskal lo mikre bria kedemuchat b'reish perek hataravot mishum yiktiv lo yochal et basara
Mhm.
demashma afilu chaticha achat mimenu aval hachi ka'amar lo tochal otam bein gadol bein katan ki al shlimutan nikrim hen v'chein muchach b'perek Gimel de Shvuot de Tama de Bria have ki'ilu piresh hakatuv lo tochlenu becholshu. And this is also true that for Shora Niskal, it's not considered a Bria, as is demonstrated at the beginning of Perek Tar Avot, because it says you should not eat its meat, which seems to imply that even one piece of its meat you can't even eat.
Yeah.
But
Which sounds by the way like a significant piece, right? So however, here
however,
not
here
here, the honey, these
for these, right? For these, it says don't eat them, whether a big piece or a small piece, because it's due to their sort of wholeness that they're considered to be Biryah.
exactly.
And this is also demonstrated in the third parak of Shvuot, that the reason for the Bria is it's as if the Torah said not to eat any of them at all, any pieces of them at all.
Good. Okay. And keep Hadib Perak Elu Halokin. So let's go to the piece at the end of not the it's the third chapter of Makot. Second, I can't remember, but second chapter of Makot. It's the end of the chapter though, I think. So
V'hadib Perak Elu Hen Halokin, Maske Rabbanan Briat Neshama Chashiva, Chita Lo Chashiva, Varegid Ve'ever Minachai Delav Briat Neshama Hen V'Chashivi Bria. But we have a challenge from Perek Elu Alokin, where the rabbis conclude that it's Bria has to have some sort of life force, I think. So it's like, so a piece of wheat does not have a life force, but the Gid and the Ever Minachai don't have sort of a life force of their own, but yet they're considered Bria.
exactly. So what's the answer?
V'yesh lamar derabanan ledivrei Rabbi Shimon ka'amre. So the answer is that the rabbis hold like Rabbi Shimon, who seems to I obviously thinks differently, but I'm forgetting exactly
Yeah,
what his.
he thinks that anything is that where you eat if you eat kol shehu is a you're chayav for in Malkut. And so they're just arguing per Rabbi Shimon's opinion. They're not actually saying their opinion out. If you looked at the Rosh, right, the Rosh brings like this happens all over Shas, right? Two people are arguing, and they're like, Rabbi Shimon, wouldn't you even agree per your opinion? Chita doesn't fall into this category. But it's not what we actually hold. And so therefore, according to this, which is really the Tosafist and the Rosh school, the having Briat Neshama, having this life force, as you called it, is not a significant thing in terms of declaring something Biryah or not, or Bria, as you're calling it. I will say, by the way, that Tosfot in Makot actually does bring up the idea that Giran Asher and even potentially Chalev would have a neshama, briat neshama, an ever minachai. And I think what's going on there, they have a problem, but there is a way that some schools say, actually, yeah, like plants don't have things that are from plants don't have a neshama. Things that are from animals do have a neshama. Even parts of animals have a neshama, and plants don't, right? I'm sure there's some theological implications of that, but there's also halachic implications potentially here. So, did I make that comprehensible? Did I make that not? Remember, at the end of the day, Rav Lexi points out to us, what we're really trying to do is we have four things that are at various places referred to as birya: the gira nashe, the ever minachai, the of tameh, and the insect, let's call it. I don't know if there's a general category of insect or something like that. And we know that chalev isn't, and we also know that plant life isn't. And so we're trying to come up with ways to define what do those four things have in common that plant life and chalev don't. And so this is what leads to this kind of Tosafos answer of it has to have its name on it only when it's whole. That's really the main thing. It has to name its name on it when it's whole. So, but that's all the Tosafos Rosh school. The Ran, he has three categories actually that make something a bria or a birya, and so we want to see those as well. Maybe Noam, you can take over for your partner over there in crime.
והר"ן כתב דלא מקרה ביריה, אלא אם כן איסורה מגופה, כגון גירא נשה וכיוצא בו, שהוא אסור מתחילת בריאתו, אבל עוף טהור שנתנבל, שלא היה אסור מתחילת בריאתו באיסורי, לא. Okay, so the Ran says that something's only called birya if it is like forbidden in itself. This sounds a lot actually like Rashi's.
It's exactly what the Beit Yosef is going to point out to us. So,
Thank you. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah. The Kedivrei Rashi. Yeah. He da'achal tzipor tehora v'chulei. And that's just like the Rashi, right? So, okay. Should I keep going?
Yeah.
וכתב דמיהייתמה נמי לא חשיב שור הנסקל birya. And that's the reason why we wouldn't call a shor niskal a birya, because before it's a shor, before it's killing anyone, it's fine.
I mean, the shorny skull, right? You could before it becomes the shorny skull, right? When it was born, you could shecht it. It would be fine. It would be
right.
Good, so.
וצריך עוד תנאי bet. שני, וצריך עוד תנאי שני, שיהיה בריאת נשמה כגון גירא נשה, דהווה בחיותה, אבל היכא דלאו בריאת נשמה, אף על פי שהוא כבריאתו, כגון חיטה, וכיוצא בה, לאו ביריה היא. כדאמרינן בפרק אלו הן אלוקים. So, okay, the second is like we saw just now in the Gemara, that it needs this life force, and that's what disqualifies wheat, right?
Exactly.
ומיהו חלב לא מקרה ביריה, אף על פי שבריאת נשמה לפי שאינו במקום אחד, ואינו כמין ביריה שהיא מקובצת כאחד. But Chelev is not called a Biryah, even though it does have this life force, because it's not just in one place, and it's not like the kind of being that's all gathered like in one place.
Exactly.
Adkan.
Yeah. By the way, it's really interesting. The Ron has a third category, which I think he leaves out here. Does anybody remember what the third category of the Ron was? If you open up to the Ron, there's a place like partway down it says "V'havi yodea de lo mikre birya ela b'shloshat tnaim." Right? Actually, let me read it. And if you find it, great. If not, it's okay. It's short, and I can. Hachad shia isura migufa. Right, we saw that in the Beit Yosef. Hashni shitie briat neshama. We saw that in the Beit Yosef. Hashishi shitie shlema. It has to be whole, right? Which maybe fits that chaylev one a little bit, but I think really what he's saying is the leg of an ant is not a birya. The whole ant is a birya. So. But okay, he left it out. We'll keep going. We know the Ron, so we're not going to worry about him for the moment. So, I keep going, Noam.
Okay, ופירוש זה דבריאת נשמה כתבו הראש בשם יש מפרשים ותוספות גם כן בפרק אלו אין אלוקים ודחו אותו והווה יודע דלא מקרא ביריה. So, okay, this interpretation of needing a life force, the Rosh wrote about it and the Tosfot wrote about it and they rejected it. Veheve yodea de lo mikra birya elim ken shalem. And you need to know that it's not a birya unless it's whole. So I guess that's the Beit Yosef's paraphrase.
It is, but it's like weird. I thought it was weird that he wrote it that way. It's because it's like in the Ron, and it sounds like from himself he's throwing that out there. I just didn't know what to do about that. So
Yeah.
but okay.
וכתבו רבנו בסימן שאחר זה ושם יתבאר בסעיף.
And the following simanim. The one great thing about Biryah is it really isn't all covered in kuf. It's covered in many simanim, and we'll kind of come back to it as we go on. If you noticed, I did assign some things from outside of siman kuf. I saw some pei dalid. I think I assigned some kuf zayin. Maybe kuf dalid also. It's actually all over the place, Biryah. And in fact, actually, it's like he's a little bit, the Torah does it in those places, but also the Beit Yosef has a little bit more to say in the next one when he talks about Chaticha Rialit Gabed Bo. Also, he talks about Biryah a little bit, so it's it weaves its way through a lot of different things that we're dealing with here. Also with Yavesh Be'Yavesh, which is where I think Kuf Yud. So. Okay, good. I want to look at the Shulchan Aruch now, unless there are any questions up until this point. So let's see what the Mechaber does. I have to get it. So,
But wait,
yeah,
Joel, like the whole idea of its shlemut is like, I mean, if according to that, if you had a bria but then it got cut up, it would. Like, I assume it would still remain a bria, but no, you're saying according to the shlemut, it would cease to remain one.
Yeah, maybe I didn't assign that. It's a shach. Well,
no, I should say I unfortunately didn't get very far in the sources.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Lots of things that I didn't see.
That's but yeah, if it's mitra sek, right? If it's ground up, it loses its status as a beer. This is why, if you've heard, you can't lechatchila. You can't be like, oh, I have really buggy vegetables. I'm just going to grind them up. And you're like, no, I know they're buggy. I'm going to grind them up so it's no longer beer. I don't have beetle. That's why can't I do that? Someone tell me.
I mean, because that's yeah, exactly. That's beetle lechatchila b'yadayim.
All right. Good. But if like I have something that I don't know, like, or maybe I have no reason to suspect this, has bugs, but who knows? And I don't check and I go grind it up into, or maybe I go, get a smoothie from somebody and, I don't know, they probably didn't check for bugs, but they made it into a smoothie, right? It's b'diavad, right? It is then potentially batel because it would be batel b'shishim and no longer batel be, a million or maybe even 960. So this is why grinding up is a more lenient category for bug checking than when vegetables remain whole. So yeah, exactly. If it's ground up, it loses the Biryah status. Max and then Rav Lexi.
Just that I've along these similar lines heard Psak that when it comes to something like asparagus, which you're going to roast, and you're not roasting asparagus to kill bugs, you're roasting asparagus because that's how you eat asparagus, that you don't have to check beforehand.
Good. And a lot of this is going to come down to like, is there a known fact that these asparaguses have bugs in them, or are they assumed to have bugs? And we'll talk a little bit about bug checking. We're going to see the Rashba soon, but yeah, Rav Lexi, please.
Yeah, there's like a fun Rev Ovadia where he's talking about he's like citing an earlier where he talks about drinking like non-Jewish coffee, and his main thing is he's like, you know, it's mutter to have the coffee and also their bread and things like that. Ve'enan chosheshim l'mayim she'enan mesunanim. You shouldn't have to worry about like non-strained water because apparently there was a lot of concern that like of like buggy water at the time that this is being written in the 1800s by the guy he's quoting.
Mhm.
Because he's like, it's a fake speka because maybe there weren't worms in the water. And if there were worms in the water, then, maybe they've been dissolved by being cooked. So, like, that's why you don't have to worry about it. Again, lechatchila, you should worry about it yourself. Well, the copepod problem is its whole own thing. That's its, yes, but arguably many of these rabbis might not have worried about copepods, depending on who you ask.
Yeah. We're not going to see this in the sources we see today, but there's a whole thing also about, in actually, when we get to the second half with bugs, I'll talk about this, about like bugs you can't see with the naked eye. There's actually something to say about that too. But copepods apparently you can, right? Is that correct? I think you can see them in the water. So,
Not usually.
oh,
Like,
not usually. It's like
I think the presumption is that it seems like the assumption is that most New York City water slash all of it has copepods because the water quality is so good that there isn't city level like filtration.
mhm.
Uh, but that you can almost never look at a cup of water that you pour from the faucet and see little specks like that. Yeah, is almost never the case, which is why a lot of the people were like, no, they are like the ones who say that it is an issue are like, well, every now and then they are visible to the naked eye and therefore they're real. And most other people are like, well, they almost never are. And our rabbis weren't gozer on things that they literally couldn't see.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end, right? Loli natural lemacheh sharet, right? It's like you have to be able to, with your normal senses, be able to see the thing. So, but let's do the Shulchan Aruch. I want to see what
Can I
he.
ask a question about
Yeah,
the fat of Gid Hanashe?
yeah, please.
Why is that usher?
It's a
Is it considered to be a part of the Gid itself in some way?
it's a derabanan unless you come to eat the gid, as far as I understand, if I
Okay.
remember correctly. Yeah, it's but you can imagine that, right? Things that surround an Isur you want to be careful with.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that makes sense, but I wasn't sure if it was somehow considered a part of the Gid itself or the
No,
like.
no. Yeah. So, but
Because in
I,
that case, I wouldn't understand why it's Batel in 60 and blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
Anyway, okay, thanks.
Yes, Rev Lexi also brings up the Borer question on Shabbos, which plays into yeah, if you remember, we did the Rav Moshe where he says like washing vegetables. He actually had a really nice chiddush on why washing fruits and vegetables on Shabbos was allowed because washing may not be Borer, right? He said, but the other thing was he's like, because you're not really doing anything, right? You're washing the thing to make yourself feel good. There's nothing actually on the apple when you wash it. Right. But if there actually is something on the thing, on the leaves or whatever, when you wash it, that's a different story. Well, maybe washing's fine, according to Rav Moshe. Soaking would be a problem, right? We saw that directly in the Shulchan Aruch. Soaking on Shabbos to let the thing you don't want come up, that would be an issue. So okay. Anyway, let's read Kuf in the Shulchan Aruch. I want to read at least the beginning of it. Let's see. Who hasn't read? Josie.
Sure. Biryah dahainu kagon Biryah dahainu kagon nimala tameh v'gidan asher ve'ever minachai ubetzai sheyesh ba'efrach v'chvayitze behem afilu be'elef lo batla ve'ein lo din Biryah ela im kain hu davar shehaya bo chayot la'apuke chita achad shel isur. וכן צריך שיהיה דבר שאיסור מתחילת בריאתו, לאופוקי עוף טהור שנתבטל
Shanit Abel that becomes an yeah.
נתנבל, בשור נסכל, וכן צריך שיהיה דבר שלם, שאם יחלק אין שמו עליו, לאופוקי חלב, וכן צריך שיהיה שלם. So the Mechaber here is writing out a Biryah is never giving several examples, Nimala and Oftame, Agida Nashe, and Ever Menachai, or an egg with a chick in it, are never batla, but things don't have the deen of Biryah unless they meet the following standards. One is that they had to have been living things, specifically to exclude wheat. Of Usher wheat, and it had to have been something that was that has always been from the moment of its conception Asur, to exclude things like a clean bird or that gets mixed in, or the Shor HaNiskal. And it has to be an entire thing that if you were to cut it up, it would no longer be called if you cut off, it would no longer have that particular name, to exclude things like fats. And so it has to be complete.
And also has to be complete. In other words, he's actually tried, he says it needs to be a thing that is only the thing when it is shalem. That first is not that the thing has to be shalem, and such that if you cut it up, it would have a different name. And it also still has to be in its complete form. That's the other piece there. So yeah. So who does he? We said this out, but who does he paskin like, the Ran or the Rosh? Yeah, both of them. Max is pointing up.
Both of them, yeah.
He combines both. He has 4 categories. 2 of them are overlapping between the two, maybe 2, maybe 1. Depends how you read the Rosh. But yeah, it's kind of fascinating. He actually combines the opinions, and he even though he adds a category of Biryah, which is the Beitzat Defroach, he has a combination of the 4 categories. So I want to look at the Taz in Aleph here because I think it's important. Anyone feel?
Could we just quickly say out just to make sure where he's poskening like each?
Good. Yes.
The first piece is Rashi, right? Not Chita.
Well, it's not. Everyone agrees that it isn't Chita. Hold on, let me find where the first piece is.
I thought I said that was Rashi said that, but
I feel be'elaf lo betel ve'enzo din b'ria elim ken tvar sheyesh bo chayut. The chayut is actually that's the Ran who says that. The Rosh quotes it, but he rejects it in the end. He says that's actually just the rabbis paskening, talking Rabbi Shimon's language. So he rejects it.
Okay.
Even though if you look at the Ber Golah, it does say Harosh Shan B'Shem Yesh Omrim, right? V'chein katav Haran mehader, but for Makot, yeah. So, but yeah, that's actually it's really the Ran is the Chayut. Okay.
Then the Tchilas Briaso is the Rosh Tosfos school. As is Devar Shalem with the Shem Alav.
Well, I mean, Tchilas Briato is really the Rashi school. So. But it comes out of the Rosh also, yeah.
Right, okay. The third piece of Devar Shalom is the Rosh. And then the last one is the Ran, which is just say not Chalev.
Exactly. Yeah. So good. Very nicely done. So okay, it's a nice. I mean, it's interesting. It's a combination. There's a lot of. There are people who ask questions on that, like, how can you do this, right? You on the Beit Yosef, right? You by making more ands, you make it a more lenient category. There's fewer things that fit into Biryah. But it's a derabanan, so maybe we're allowed to do that, right? That's not it's not so crazy that in a derabanan we're allowed to be more lenient in terms of like how to categorize things. So, Ori, please.
When you said the Rashi was Tchilat Briato, you're talking about Asur min Tchilat Briato?
Yeah, yeah, that was Rashi's take.
And that was also in the Ran. The Ran has
He does, yes.
Sorry, maybe I'm
everything.
misunderstanding. In what way is he just not paskening like the Ran?
Oh,
What?
because I believe
Yeah.
the Ron didn't say which one didn't he say? Did he say Tchilat Briato?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
he says
that's
that.
where the
Sorry.
Ran agreed with Rashi. Yeah.
But Devar Shal oh, it's the Sarikli at Devar Shalem She'im Yechalek Ein Shemo Alav, right?
Oh, yes. So
Oh.
he's including the Rosh. I find he's like mostly adhering to the Ran, but then just includes the Rosh in that.
Yeah,
Yes.
he includes the Rush also. So yeah, it's
Okay. Thanks.
it's fascinating. It's but also by the way, like this is one of those cases. Sometimes you can do this. Like sometimes I read the Beit Yosef and I read the Torah and I'm like, I completely understand where he is, like what he would write in the Shulchan Aruch. I could like tell you word for word. Here I was a little surprised. Like, it's like I couldn't predict from the Beit Yosef what he would write in the Shulchan Aruch. Um, and you could say, remember, a lot of times he does copy the tour. And right, if you look, everyone actually open back up to the tour because I think if I'm not mistaken, what he does here, um, hopefully this is important. It's just like, right, is the tour starts called Davarshu Bria, but he says Biryah Dahainu, right? Like that. He adds one category, and the tour ends, right? She'im Yichalek Ein Shmolav, right? Devar Shalom She'im Yichalek Ein Shmolav. He like inserts the tour in there, and then he like add. Essentially, what he's done is he's taken the tour and he's added the Ran to it. I think is really what he's done. Um, so with a few other changes as well. But it's like he likes the tour, but he can't give up the run, is maybe the way to say that. So okay. Let's how are we doing on time? Yeah, let's read the Taz, then we'll take a break, and then we'll do some bugs. If that's so let's see. Who has is anyone Isaac? Can you start us on Taz Aleph?
Okay. Biryah Dahayno, blah blah blah. Hashivut Biryah shelo tihyeh betela hi midrabanan. Dechevan shemin haTorah yesh hashivut delokin al achilata, afilu hi pechut michazayet, deha stama ketiv, etzel minim temeim lo tochal otam afilu hem ketanim. Ad al kach
Okay.
niru רבנן בתערובת שלהם, אבל מן התורה היא בטלה כשאר איסורים. ונפקא מינה לעניין ספק אי הווה בריה או לא הווה sorry. לעניין ספק אי הווה בריה או לא עולה הווה, ספקא דרבנן ובטל. וכן בכל הדברים דאמרינן לקמן שאינם בטלים, כגון ראוי להתכבד או דבר שבמניין, אבל אי הווה ודאי בריה.
Good. Actually, just stop before you do that. Just like say what he said. You don't have to translate word for word. Just give us the. I know
So,
it's the Ikar, but let's give the Ikar. So
okay, so basically, Biryah, this entire idea of Hashivut for Biryah is just Darabanan.
mhm.
Um,
Well, the Chashivut
um,
isn't the Ravanan, but it's
no, like the Hashivutness of a Biryah.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. So
yeah. Because otherwise, um, because otherwise we would say that you're getting lashes. Because we have in the Torah, we have this concept of like when you say lo tachal XYZ, that means don't eat any amount of it at all. And so that's why they're so that's why they're machmir on a mixture of Biryah, even though Deraita would be Batel,
Mhm.
just like anything else. And so then when you're looking at an issue of whether it's a Safek of whether or not something's a Biryah, then that's a Safek Derabanan, and so it should be Batel.
Exactly.
Um,
It should
yeah,
be it should be Makil about it. So about that,
yeah,
yeah.
you should be make help, yeah, because Safek Derabanan Lakula, Safek Deraita.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is also the case with the other things we've talked about that are supposedly that aren't Batel, like a Chaticha Yalahid Kabed and a Davar Shiba Minyan.
Hmm.
But okay, that's why I broke off. Okay, Aval I Hava Vadai Birya, O Echad Mehane, She'ein Mitbatlin, Ela Shehahisur Safek Baze, Afilu Be'elef Lo Batel. כגון ביצי ספק טרפה וכיוצא בו, וכן כתב איסור והתר, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
Okay. But if it's definitely a birya or one of these things that aren't batel that we mentioned before, even if but it's the fact it's whether or not it's aser. That's the question, right? So
Exactly.
like maybe we're not sure that the uh hang on.
Well, he gives the case, right? Maybe you have
Sorry, right now, yeah, yeah. So like if you have a um if you have an egg that's of a Safek Trefa animal,
Mhm.
um, or something like that, then it's not Batel even in 1,000.
Great.
Uh,
So in other words, we're when we have a suffix, is it a birya or not? Then we're makil, which is maybe what allows the mechaber to like take all four categories, right? But if it's a suffix as to whether or not the thing is asur, but we know for sure it's a birya, then we actually are machmir about it, and we are it's not batel. This is an important point at the run that the Taz is making here. So I just want to kind of wanted you all to see that. Any questions on that before we go take a break? And we'll come back and we'll do some more Beit Yosef and talk about bugs a little bit. Okay. I'll see you all in 10. Not 10, 5. It's 5. 5 minutes. 5 minute break. Um, hello. Well, Max is back. That's good.
So, did you know the "you cut the turkey without me" reference?
I
Does that mean anything to you?
cut the turkey without any reference? No, what does that mean?
There's a movie, one of the like Barry Levinson Baltimore movies, but
Uh-huh.
not Diner, in which someone like shows up a little bit late to Thanksgiving and walks in and screams like, "You cut the turkey without me?" And I don't know. It's a good like I Ben Summer once mentioned like used that as an example, talking about the korban toda of like what it means for everyone to eat something together, and that there's like some sort of communal eating.
Interesting.
Um, but also is a nice thing about like what is the turkey when it's whole and what is the turkey when it's cut up.
It's a Biryah question at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah,
It's at
yeah.
least a Chashivas question, right?
Yeah.
So, but okay. I want to do a couple Pirushim of the Beit Yosef. And I was trying to think what the plural is. I just went for Pirushim. Maybe Bate Yosef. I don't know. Um, one's Ephraim and one's Menashe. Okay, that was really bad. Gimel and the Beit Yosef. Just skip over that, and maybe some people will laugh. Um, let's see. Ori, can you read Gimel and the Beit Yosef for us? Katav Harashba.
Yep. Just gonna open it up. Gimel. כתב הרשב"א בתשובה,
Mm-hmm.
קדרה של מרק שנפלה שם בירייה ונאבדה, אסור.
That's
If
our call.
אסור הכל.
Mm-hmm.
So if some kind of birria fell into a big big pot of soup and was lost, then the whole thing is asur. ואם נתנו מהם רק בכף או בקערה, but if they took some of it with a spoon or a bowl, וראו שאין שם כלל, הכל מותר באף הקדרה. So if I can see within my ladle that birria is not in there, um, then it's mutar.
Exactly. So,
The
um,
afakdera meaning if I could see in the whole kdera that it's not there.
exactly. So. Well, no, I think no. Even so, you put it in the karat, or you put it in a bowl or a spoon, and you see that there's no birria in there. Then even the kdera itself becomes mutar, right? This is the original pot, which is a little interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't totally understand why.
uh,
It
um,
wasn't, yeah.
but yeah, it's. I think he means what he means there is. Well, it's interesting. I have a. Do you have a chidushei and hagalot at the bottom? I have one. Was it on that? I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's. Can you read that?
רוצה לומר, כל מה שבכף או בקערה, כל מה שבכף או בקערה.
Mhm.
Everything that's in the kaf or in the whole pot. והטעם שהתירו, אף על גב, שאין בו 60, מכל מקום הוא מותר, מפני שהוא נותן טעם לפגם. ולכן, מסיים שם, דאף הקטרה מותר להשתמש בה.
אחר כך.
אחר כך, שאינה נאסרה, כיוון שהוא
נותן טעם
נותן
לפגם.
טעם, נותן טעם לפגם.
Yeah.
So what he really meant was that this pot is not going to be asur
as
next time.
as a pot. Yeah, exactly. In other words, like the marak isn't kosher. The stuff contents poured into the bowl or into the spoon and are fine, and the pot itself is fine because why? Once you like dump out the soup, right? The flavor that was given by the bug that fell in is noten tam leaf gum at the end of the day, and therefore once you no longer have the birria there, the tam itself is irrelevant because it's noten tam leaf gum. This is an important piece in the rush in the Rashba here, right? Because bugs. We're going to see more of this. Bugs are disgusting. Well, I don't know. Maybe some people don't think bugs are disgusting, but I think bugs are kind of disgusting. I wouldn't eat an ant.
You see the end of the Bach olive? Compares it to the Akbara. Maybe bugs aren't
Yeah,
disgusting.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's it's not everyone thinks they are, but
Just as we didn't do the Akbara Bashikra, but maybe mice in beer taste good.
it depends if it's a field
Thing.
mouse or city mouse. But it's true. It's we're gonna do that. We're definitely doing that so we get some point. So but yeah, so his like the Rashba though seems to think that they are, at least if this understanding of the Rashba seems to think that they're disgusting, and therefore their ta'am isn't a concern for us. And really just their presence as a birya is a concern. Okay, Ori, do the next one too. Shoot tshuva acheret.
ובתשובה אחרת כתב על ירקות שאחר שנתבשלו נמצאו בהם 3 תולעים. הירקות אסורים שכיוון שהוחזקו ירקות אלו בתולעים צריכים בדיקה. Okay, so in another tshuva, he wrote that with vegetables, that after they were cooked, they found 3 worms. Those yarakot are not allowed. So now that we have a chazaka that there's these are vegetables that have worms in them, they need to be checked. And when they're cooked, there's no way to check them. אבל מי השלקות מותרים, לפי שאפשר לסננם. Okay, so except for water that was cooked with the vegetables, those you can screen. Is there a better word for that?
You strain it. You can strain it out.
Yeah, strain, exactly.
Yeah.
וכן אם בשלו בהן בשר, אפשר לרחוץ אותו ולבדוק. עד כאן לשונו. And also if you cooked meat with that, you could wash it off and check it.
So, which I think the Rashba is giving us a few facts here, right? One is what makes something have a chazakah that it has bugs in it?
If you found 3.
3 bugs, right? 3 bugs gives it a chazakah of having bugs. Second, if you can check, you can get rid of them. But if you can't check, then you have a problem, right? Once it has a chazaka. Those are the main things that I think we get out of this Rashba here. There's, by the way, did people see? I think I signed it. There was a Taz. Yeah, I think a Taz Vav. There's the Bach also gets into this. But there's a problem with the Rashba. What was the problem? I know Rav Lexi wants to answer. Max, go for it.
Because it seemed there was a place where it said if you find it twice.
Yeah.
And but but a chazaka is 3 and not 2.
Well, there's a big debate in the Gemara about this, actually, right?
Right. I guess
Yeah. And
the way we poskin.
We poskin 3, but it's possible that he was trying to be machmir and holding 2 here, So although you will see the Mechaber says 3, and 3, well, what did the Taz say? Actually, do you remember what Taz says in the end? All right, everyone open up. This is a little bit whiplash here. Open up to Kuf and in the Shulchan Aruch, look at the Taz. I think it's Zayin, isn't it? No, Vav in the Taz. So, yeah. So he says, because it seems like in some places we do follow 2, but and he says, I'll read it. He says, right, Shosha Tolaim, B'veit Yosef b'siman Pei Daled, Mevi sham tshuvat Rashba, v'katav sham shtei pamim, v'chanu tshuvat Rashba, v'nireh li pashut, shetut sofer. He thinks it's a mistake. The Rashba, it was supposed to be 3. Sham. V'tzarich lomar shlosha pamim. It needs to say 3. V'chein piresh sham b'shulchan aruch b'sif yud. All right. Umorich b'chamid, but the Bach, my father-in-law, Zal, katav di yesh le'achmir bevet, keven de l'Rebbe havi chazaka bevet zimni. Right? He says, the Bach's like, well, no, we should be machmir because there's an opinion the Gemara thinks twice is a chazaka. It's Rebbe. It's not, no small fry here. V'lo nireh le'oniat dativ. It doesn't seem that way to me. Ken daha katav harosh beperak habal evamto. Debe nisuim u'milah Kaimalan Kirebi, that we hold in marriage and in Mila like Rebbe, Mishum Sfeik Nefashot Lekel, because there, right, we have this is a cases are like Mila for someone who has a number of family members who died from Brit Mila, right? How many does it need to be, two or three? Because there it's Safek Nefashot, and we should be lenient, therefore we should take two as a chazaka. Mashma bishar duchte. What's implied is that for all other places, Kaivalan ki Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, we hold like Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, the dafka de betlata zimnin have chazaka, that three times the chazaka v'cheni kar. All right, but and that's the essence, the true deen. And I want to stop there. But Actually, no, I'll do the rest. First, Katava Beit Yosef b'Shem Haran Sham b'Siman Peidala de Pam Achat or Shtaim Mutar Hatafshil, and he says the Beit Yosef says explicitly in the name of the Ran that if you find one or two bugs, everything else is mutar. So he seems to follow that as well. But it's good to know, right? Just in general, chazaka is three times, and that there is an opinion that it's two. And then we actually only, according to this Taz, we only follow that though if the two in cases where it's a life threatening thing and not a question of Isser v'heter. So okay, Toph, we're good on that. How are we doing? 325. Yeah, let's do some of this. Let's do some more Beit Yosef about the Biryah is Betela, right? We had this thing in 960, and the Rosh didn't like that. So just trying to remember how long this is. But yeah, let's see. Eitan, you're back up.
Okay. Yesh Omrim, the Biryah Betela be 960.
Great.
The Lo Nehira La Adonia via Harosh Zal. Kach Katav Harosh בפרק גידה נשה, שיש אומרים כן, וראייתם מדתנן בתרומות פרק י' המתניתין דג טמא שכבשו עם דג טהור, כל גרב שהוא מחזיק סייעתיים, אם יש משקל 10 זוז ביהודה, שהם 5 סלעים בגליל, דג טמא צירו אסור. וכאמר לה בירושלמי, שהוא אחד מ960. הורה רבי יוסי.
Great. So that's just right. We have this Mishnah that, as we talked about before, your dag tameh that you pickled or you soaked in water with a bunch of other kosher fish, and it's in a garav, and it holds some amount. And the Yerushalmi says that it's a ratio of 1 to 960. Okay, if it's 1/960, that's problematic. If it's more than that, or less than that, sorry, less than that fractionally, 1 over something more than 960, it's mutar. Okay. That's not a Biryah question up until now, but keep going.
Hore Rabbi Yossi Barbun ba'achbara achad le'elef, Perush Hore Rabbi Yossi ba'achbar shnit arev beheter, ubatzlo ba'elef. V'hu adin im haya tesha me'ot v'shishim, haya matiro. Alma Biryah b'tela b'sha me'ot v'shishim. ויש מפרשים דאחברה שם מקום כדאית בפרק הפועלים וכאי הציר דאיירי בי וכאמר שרבי יוסי הורכן באותו מקום דיהיב תמה עד קרוב ל1,000. וכן מסתבר דלא איירי בעכבר שנתערב בהתר, אם צורת עכבר עליו, הרי ניכר בין חתיכות של התר ומשליכו. והשאר מותר, ואם נימוח ואין ניכר טעמו בטל בשישים, עד כאן לשנה. So Rabbi Yossi Barbun teaches that an achbar is batel in Elef, in 1,000, and he also explains that in Achbar, Perush Horet. Oh, and the explanation of this is that he teaches that an Achbar that's mixed with a Heter is cancel it in 1,000. And so this logic also applies to 960 with a Biryah that he would say that it's mutar.
Because an Akhbar, we should just say it out. An Akhbar is a
Uh, is 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 that a Biryah?
yeah, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it fits all the categories. A full mouse is a birria.
Oh,
Any
yeah.
full tameh animal, right, is going to be a birria at the end of the day. So,
But there's some people who explain that Akhbara here is actually the name of a place.
mhm.
Um, and uh,
Yeah, this is a fun thing because it says, right, be'achbara. Be'achbara could mean with an achbar, could mean, in achbar, in a place called achbar. And both of them work perfectly well with the grammar. So, um,
um,
and then the end of it is right. He says, right, he says it's and that we have another case in the Gemara where in the Bavli where we actually have a name of a place called Achbar. And what are we talking about here? We're talking about it's like a really strong brine, such that it needs 1 in 960 to cancel. To cancel it. It's a really strong taste. Um, but and he says that must be the case because why? What would happen if it were actually an Achbar, an actual mouse?
because you'd have to actually just take it out,
Yeah,
or or if it dissolved, you'd be batal b'shishin.
yeah, an akhbar is not an ant, right? You can find the akhbar, you can throw it away, or your other possibility is it dissolves and then you're good to go. So like that's the only sensible way, according to the Beit Yosef, to read this. And actually, if you skip a little bit further, go to Ulinyan Halacha.
לעניין הלכה, כיוון שהתוספות והראש והר"ן מסכימים לאסור, וגם דעת הריף והרמב"ם, נראה כן, מדלא הזכירו דבר זה, הכי נקטינן.
Hmm.
And when it comes to halacha, since the Tosfot, the Rosh, the Ran agree to forbid it, and this is also what the Rif and the Rambam think, from the fact that this isn't mentioned, we hold this way. But what is the this here? Is that
That it's not batel.
not bata? Okay.
Yeah. It's a little weird because the Reef actually is, I don't know if anyone looked into this. The Reef actually doesn't poskin any of that sugya about the Gita Nashe. He's about the Gita Nashe is not but ino makiro kulam asurin. He doesn't poskin that. And it's like not so clear if the Reef has Biryah. Or he doesn't think it's an applicable category. The Rambam has it. Other people think the Reef has it in other places. It's a little strange. Um, but uh, um, yeah, was there anything else I wanted to see? Um, no, that was all I wanted from that for the moment. So, okay, let us go now to the Aruch HaShulchan because, yeah, good timing. Unless there's any questions up until this point. Let's read some Aruch HaShulchan. So the Aruch HaShulchan is dealing with I have to find it somewhere here, or I'll pull out the book. There it is. He's dealing with, a real life problem that exists in our day as well, and a little bit different, but let's actually see what his problem is. Let's see let's see who read after Noam. Start the Aruch HaShulchan, Seif Yud Gimel. No?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I just needed Eitan to unmute me.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
י"ג, ודע דבכל המדינות הידועים לנו בימות הקיץ, הרכש המצוי בכל מיני מאכל, ובייחוד אלו הנמלים הנקראים מילבין. So know that in all of our countries nowadays, especially in the summer months, there's these critters that appear in our animals, specifically these kinds of ants that are called milbin, which I
Mhm.
looked up in Yiddish actually means mites or moths.
Oh, good. Thank you. I wasn't sure what it was. So that's
מצויים הרבה בכל מיני קמח ובכל מיני גרויפין. I didn't look that one up.
It's some other sort of wheat or spelt or something, some other sort of berries that are made into flour.
Flour.
Yeah.
וכמעט שאי אפשר להימלט מזה, and it's almost like you can't escape this. ובוודאי הזריזים מתקתקים בכל האפשר להימלט מזה. And of course, anyone who's serious is going to try and escape from it. ועדיין, כולי high.
Kulei hai ve'ulai, right? All this, and perhaps you did it, perhaps you didn't, right? In other words, like it's impossible to get at, to even if you like
Do all that and then it's indefinite. Right?
yeah. So
Um,
that's, by the way, it's a phrase from the Gemara, Kulei hai ve'ulai. That's where he gets it from. But okay.
וקל וחומר, כל המון בית ישראל שאינם מדקדקים ואוכלים מכל הבא בידם כשאינם רואים על ההדיא המלבין, וחלילה לומר שכלל ישראל יכשלו באיסור גדול כזה. And like, God forbid we should say that all the Jews who are not serious and who are not checking, that they're like stumbling on this huge violation. Meaning we need to find a limud zchut, I think.
Exactly. Yeah.
Velo nichal lemarayhu damrat alayhu hachi. And it's not comfortable for their master, meaning God.
Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah. Like
Not comfortable for God that you should say such slanderous things about them. Ve'ra'ui lechapez zchut. Yeah, so we want to find a limud zchut. וכבר נתעוררו גדולים בדורות שלפנינו להמציא זכות בעניין הגדול הזה, ונברם בסייעתא דשמיא, מה שהם אמרו, ומה שנראה לעניות דעתי.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. This is like, I just want to, I think this intro is amazing, right? He has a problem. His problem is that bugs are everywhere, right? They're everywhere, and it's impossible. He says even the medaktakim, right, can't escape it. And let alone the average, humble Jew who like doesn't, they don't see it and they don't check, right? They ignore it, and they're all making their bread. And heaven forbid we should call them all avaryanim. So let's figure out a way to make them all. What he's not saying is, he's not saying don't check. He's not saying it's mutar. He's saying people aren't checking, and I believe in these people, so let's find a way to like justify them. That's what he's saying. This is very Aruch HaShulchan in many ways. It fits in very well as a posek, but I think it's like an amazing. I love this so much because number one, he's going to give us some of the ideas and thoughts that we've had so far, but at the same time, he's really, you see him as like somebody who cares about his people, who really is trying to find zechut here. So I think that's great. So what's his? Let's just look at the time. We'll do some of it inside, but I want to. Anybody remember what are his three solutions that he has for it? I see your hand, Max. We're gonna give people a second here, see if anybody else saw it. All right, but Max, go for it. Oh, Isaac. Let's do Isaac first, then Max. Go for it.
Okay. So one argument is it's a sha'at hadachak,
Mhm.
because like otherwise you don't have anything to eat. Like this is like a staple of their diet.
Well, good. That's not his. It's not his answer, though. He's like, that's why we
Okay.
need to find an answer. But he actually gives possible things that we can grab onto as to why this would be mutar, right? It's not just shat dachak. He doesn't say like shat dachak and we're throwing away the derabanan kind of thing, which I guess you probably could go to that far. I don't think he wants to go that far. So, Max, what do you have?
So one of them is Seiruf of a bunch of different positions, mostly in the Rishonim. There's the 960 position, which is the Rosh Mishans and the Orza Roa.
Good.
There's a position of 1200, Batel the 1200, which is sort of similar to that. And then he picks up on this piece from the Rif about I can't remember what the case he's talking about that there is, but it's If something is either not a Davarsha B'minyan or doesn't have an Isser Hana'ah, then it can be Batel.
Yeah. He says the reef seems to like skip the Biryah thing, right? So he's like
Right.
between the one and 1960, one and 1200, one and that. And then he adds on the Isaac thing. He's like, and yes, I understand that these are all losing dayot, but he says we'll look at this, right? He's just losing dayot in a case where it's like, come on, people need bread and it's shatechak. Then we can grab these losing dayot, right? That's position one. All right. What's his second one? Maybe I'll help out here. Max, is that a hand?
I'm happy. Yeah, I'm happy to
Go for it.
also.
Give us the whole thing. Give us the whole thing.
The other one is Tom Leaf Gum.
Well,
That's at number three.
that's number three.
You
Yeah,
found that as number three.
it's
Um,
well, say that one out since you're on that one anyway.
so the Tom Leaf Gum was basically Tom Leaf Gum is the Doraisa, and the note the bittul of Biryah is Durabanan, and there's this whole sort of several people talk about in different ways how something that Chazal isn't gozer on Dvarim Meusim. And so you can sort of like override the bittul concern by way of Tom Leaf Gum, and since we all think bugs are so disgusting, we can do bittul because of Tom Leaf Gum, essentially.
Yeah, he's like things that are would cause other things to become pagum, right? Would not be a problem. Things that are pogmim from their that are pagum from themselves, all the more so, right? And these are things that are disgusting on their own. So that's his second one. We saw that hinted at, although there's the Rama is very clear that he doesn't not hold that, and I think it's in Kuf Aleph. But okay, and then his second one. Would you remember his second one?
Is this the one about Rove and Shishim?
It's not about Rove. Um, it's about seeing them. Right. What's the whole basis for why Biryah is not Batel? Because they are
Shivut.
Chashivut. If you can't see them, are they Chashuv?
Oh, yeah.
No, that's his
Yeah.
argument. There's a lot to say about why. I mean, we saw the Rashba says if you lose a birya in your soup, right, you can't see it, you're in trouble. So there's a lot to go against him here. But you can tell he's the fact that even that he's got three of them, he's gripping at stuff to try and find ways to rationalize what's going on in his world. So
I thought that he rejected that one.
he does. He does.
Okay. All right. That okay.
I believe that's the one he doesn't like. Let me just
Right.
just double check.
It's in Tesai.
Zion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he says, right. He says, right. Aval yesh, actually, let's start there. I just want to everyone look at the towards the end, right before you see Yud Zion. He says, wait, there's an adkan lo shano, and he says aval, right? Yesh aval yesh lemar er al zeh, right? So the one who wants to complain about this, they should complain about it. Right? Because it's not just this is actually gets back into I think a little bit of the question of is it chashuv because it requires malkot? In other words, is the fact that you get malkot for eating the whole thing the motivating factor for the gezerah of Derabanan, or is the chashivut the motivating factor and malkot is just proof of the chashivut? And he's like, if the malkot is the main thing, right? Could eat a b'shas, right? Achal nemala loka chamesh. Right? You get 5 lashes for eating an ant. And that's the motivation. Right? Why were the rabbis so machmir about? Because you get malkot for it. So anytime when you get lashes, if you ate them by themselves, they would not be batel in a tarovet, and therefore, just because you can't see them doesn't mean anything, right? That's why he rejects that one. I don't know if he rejects it. It's but he thinks the last one, the mius, right? He says that one is heter echad l'chol hadayot, right? That he thinks everyone would agree with him on that, which is I don't know that I would agree, but it's nice. So all right, let's read. I want to do a little bit inside. Actually, let's do that one inside, maybe. So let's go to Seafood Zayin. But let's see who's up. Josie.
I guess I'm the one who looked guilty. Ulefi oni adati, yesh heter acher, lechol hadeot, דהנה בסוף סימן ק"ד כתב רבנו הבית יוסף דברים המאוסים שנפשו של אדם קצה בהן כנמלים וזבובים ויתושים שכל אדם בודל מהן למיאוסן ואפילו נתערבו בתבשיל ונמחה גופן לתוכו אם ההתר רבה עליו מותר וכולי.
Hmm.
So according in my humble opinion, there's one other way to be heter here for all these things, and then that it's at the end of Siman Kuf Daled that the Beit Yosef writes the disgusting things that people turn away from, like ants and flies and mosquitoes and things we all turn that are disgusting to people. Even if they get mixed up in your dish and they become dissolved, their bodies dissolve in everything else. If the heter rabba alav, if we have enough heter around them, mutar.
Oh, wait, careful. How much heter?
It says ima heter rabba alav.
Majority, right? Not shishim, majority, right? So we are makil about these things that are miusim, right? It can't be. This is actually an important point that I want to point out. If an isur is the majority, the thing becomes the isur, right? At the end of the day, and therefore that's never allowed, right? You can't be like, but well, there might be some exceptions, but generally not allowed. But in the case where like you have like a swarm of bugs flies in your soup and they all melt, right? But you still have more soup than bug. That's fine, right? That's according to the Mechaber. That's fine. It's a big position here that he's quoting. Okay, but this is not right. What isn't this so far? This case in Kuf Daled, it's not a case of
It's not a case of Biryah.
exactly not a case of marriage because they are nimuchim, right? Was that what he said? Yevenimcha gufan, right? So okay, but he's going to go. He's going to do a kal v'chomer umeta.
מעתה קל וחומר הדברים דאים במין בשאינו מינו דלרוב הפוסקים טעם כעיקר דאורייתא על כל זה
Probably im kol zeh with all this, yeah.
עם כל זה בדברים המוסים שנפשו של אדם קצה בהן אין צריך שישים כל שכן בביטול ביריה דזהו רק מדרבנן דפשיטא שלא גזרו על דברים המוסים כנמלים וזבים. So he's saying here that even more so things that are basically definitely mean b'she'eno mino, and most people say tam ki ikar is deoraita. With all this together, these disgusting things that people turn away from, you don't even need 60. Kol sheken bebitol birya, dizehu rak midrabanan.
Mm-hmm.
More so with Bitol Biryah because this is like Rabbanan. The pshita shelo gazru al devarim hamosim kenamalim mazuvim vehen emet de achila b'fi atzma.
Oh, no, vehin emet, and this is emet. Why? Because achila b'fin atzma chayav malkot.
מכל מקום, החכמים שגזרו מפני זה שלא יהיה להם ביטול, אי אפשר שיגזרו על דברים המוסים. They wouldn't possibly, even though they were that Hachamim were ruling against this, it couldn't be that they were making a ruling against disgusting things, because we wouldn't. Why would you have to make a ruling against something disgusting? We wouldn't want it anyway.
Good. So, all right. Now I'm just looking at the time. He's going to go on. He's going to, well, actually, do a little bit more, right?
תם זה דהגזרה היא מפני חיוב מלכות נאמר בגמרא. והרי רק יש שהפוסקים שכתבו.
I think it's right. It's a v'de'atu tam zed degzera he mipnei chiyuv malkot nemra gemara, right? It's never written explicitly in the Gemara that the reason is because you're going to get malkot for eating these, right? He's going to layer it on here, right? You thought it was because of malkot? The Gemara never says that. Ve'arei.
הרי רק יש מהפוסקים שכתבו כן ופשיטא דלישמא משמע מפני החשיבות כחתיכה הראויה להתכבד בדבר שבמניין, כשם שהתורה חייבה מלכות על בריאה, משום חשיבות כדאיתא במכות, כמו כן גזרו חכמים על ביטולה מפני חשיבותה. אבל התורה כשחייבה
But I want to
מלכות.
stop there. I stop you there, right? So he says, right? He says, look, it's really about chashivut because these are really categorized with chaticha reali kabed and devar sheminyan, and the malkot come because of the chashivut, not the chashivut comes because of the malkot, right? But and it says right that the guy in makot that the gezerah is because of its chashuv, right? And now the Torah shechayava malkut chayava af kishnisrecha. Keep abiria, right?
Hold on a second, just listen.
Mhm.
אבל התורה שווה מכות חייבה חמישה, כמו שכתב כשנשרכה הבריאה, כמו שכתב הרמב"ם בסוף פרק ב' מלאכות אסורות, עין שם, ואם כן אינם גרועים דברים המעושים מבריאה סרוכה, דטעמי המצוות נעלמו מאיתנו ונעלו מעגלותיה. לא תדע, אבל בנתינת טעמים הגם מן התורה נותן טעם לפגם.
Mutar. So the sheken.
כל שכן דרבנן לא יאסרו דבר הסרוח, ואם כן גם דברים המעושים לא יגזרו, שלא יהיה לזה ביטול. ובשם מתירין אפילו בכזית, בכדי אכילת פרס, כמו שכתב הבית יוסף שם.
So
They're basically saying, he's basically saying here, we wouldn't have bothered to even mention disgusting things because we wouldn't want them in there in the first place to say, well, they'd have to be dissolved or something like that.
yeah, he's saying, he's saying, we even if the Torah says you even get malkut, even if the birya is disgusting, becomes nisracha, right? But look, we don't know the reasons. We all we know is that Devarim Yosim can't be any worse from a birya srucha. And at the end of the day, the Torah says mutam noten tam lifgam mutar. And so it must be here the same thing. And there's no way that in Devarim Yosim the rabbis said made a gezerah that it wouldn't be batel. He's going to keep going from there. So let's see how we do on time. I'll read a little bit, and then Uri, I just want to read Yod Chet.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Like, so he said that they wouldn't be gozer on something like nemalim ends.
Yes.
Like, I know, like the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch mentioned it. Like, does it ever come up in Chazal? Is he disagreeing with the Torah?
So they say Nemalim are, I think they does say explicitly Nemalim are Biryah, but right, I think he's saying, it's like this is the hard thing that's very hard to square with him is like it says explicitly in the Shulchan Aruch, and but he's going to say this goes against. Does he say that? I don't think he does. It's pretty explicit that Nemela is a birya and isn't batel. So he's got to deal with that. I don't know. You have to come up with something that like maybe it wasn't Yisrach in some worlds or something, or it wasn't Mius in some worlds. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. But it flies in the face of what's Mifurash Bator, right? That's for sure. So
Pun intended, flies in the face.
yeah, it's I mean, look, one thing we didn't talk about is this. Do I want to go there? Almost no one says this. I think there is one opinion that this is all mean. It's pretty clear it's mean b'she'eno mino. Maybe there isn't one opinion that it's all mean b'mino. Although how you could have, a nemala in mean b'mino and any of it be a mutar, I don't understand. So I guess that doesn't work either. I'm just trying to think it out loud. I don't have a good answer. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, what does he say? But well, I was give him. We'll give him a little bit more peace. Go ahead. Oh, that was me echoing. Okay. Somebody has. I'm gonna mute everybody except for myself, and then all right. Let me do a little bit more, and then but Uriah Brurel is midivrei bal isur v'heter aruch. כלל, etc., etc. וזה לשונו. ואפילו ביריה שלמה מוסרחת שנתערבה, אף גופה בטל במינו ברוב, כגון נמלה. ושאינו מינו בשישים כשאר איסורים, שאף על פי שעדיין חשובה היא, אפילו מלכות וכולי, דלא חלקת תורה בין שרץ המסריח לאינו מסריח, מכל מקום לעניין ביטול, right, בטלה חשיבותה עד כאן לשונו. This is explicit here, that if it's a bug that has gone bad, right? This is not a bug just on its own, not a fresh bug, but a bug that is spoiled and become disgusting, right? At that point, it is, even though the Torah is still, for this bug, if I ate it by itself, I would get malkot, I get 5 lashes. Nonetheless, when it's, the gezerah of no bitul doesn't apply to this bug, right? So because in terms of bitul, it's lost its chashivut. V'chein katav Rabbeinu Rama, right, in Kuf Gimel, what's his language? Miu dvarim hachashuvim kebiria, oches sebahem im einam pekumim beatzmam, right? Afal pisha pogmim atashil einam betilim afilu be'elef. Ad kan lashano. He says, right, things that are like biria that are important, if they are not pigumim beatzmam, but they do pogem the tafshil, they're not batel, right? Aval shekip, and this is the Aruch HaShulchan coming in. Aval pigumim beatzmam betelim. When they're disgusting, when they're bad on their own, they must be batel. In lecha pagum yoter minemala uzvuv v'tolat ketzev elo. There's nothing worse than those. Now this again, it flies in the face. You read Pei Dalet in the Shulchan Aruch, and he's like, the perut that are mitulaim, right, that have bugs in them. You got to check them and so forth. So clearly, I don't know. There's something is going on, and maybe their bugs they're tastier in Turkey and in Svat. I don't know than they were in Lithuania. But yeah, and he actually says. I just want to read at the very end here, where he says, but and I don't remember who he's talking about here, but I just want to start. It's like the last page. Yeah, he says, look at the very end of that bottom of the page. Uminalan lomar davar neged haspara v'neged lashon ha'isur v'heter v'arama v'ra'iti bidvarav shevi shegam hagaon bal panim meirot akatav de Biryah puguma be'asma betela chashivuta v'agaon bal chavot yair hodel lidvarav v'im ken hadarim burim b'siyat ha'shemaya v'makom yadino tanu l'zchut Keshem she'anu danim zchut al klal Yisrael. So he says, look, I've got the Ramah, I've got the Chavot Yair seems to come with me. I've got a bunch of good sources. And at the end of the day, it's like the last line really, it shows his hesitation, I think, in some ways. He's like, when I get to Olam Haba and God says, why'd you say this mutar? It's like, because I was done zchut al klal Yisrael, and maybe you'll have some leniency on me, Hashem, because of that. And I think that's really where I think he feels that there's problems here, but he has no choice at the end of the day, except to say, all of you sinners, all because of all your, great sins, you eat, birya all day, and it's not batel, and you're eating unkosher food all the time. All your bread is unkosher, and he can't stomach that. No pun intended. But you're right. It flies a little bit in the face of the Mechaber, the Shulchan Aruch, and it flies in the face of the Torah, unless you have some really, convoluted explanation of them, which I don't know if he gives anywhere. But Mikar Adin, if you actually look at the categories of Biryah and what it's about, it may be a decent explanation. So, okay, 3:58 or whatever time zone you're in. Are we all in Eastern time? No, Isaac, you're not. You're not on Eastern time, and Kalev isn't on Eastern time. All right, we got a few people. So, any final 3 minutes, 2 minutes, final questions, final thoughts?
I feel like part of what he's saying is like a theological problem. Like, obviously, God doesn't mean for everybody to be the prevalence of these bugs is almost a theological problem. In the beginning, I'm talking about, where he says that their master isn't really trying to mess them up this badly. So that's why there has to be a halachic explanation for it. Does that make sense? I mean, to me, that makes a little bit more sense than saying, I'm trying to get everyone out of it by making up explanation afterwards. I gotta say, this is really not asur, because otherwise, why would there be so many bugs everywhere?
Yeah. I mean, this is also, gets into like, why did Hashem create bugs, right? But yeah, it's you're right. I think it really is. There's a theological thing behind all of this that, and we have this. We have the, ideas on the Gemara. It's in Chulin and a few other places, right? Hashem doesn't even let the animals of Tzaddikim sin, right? It's that I think he really does feel this sense of there's no way that Hashem could have created a world where we can't eat bread and that where all these Jews are tripping up on this, and therefore, like, I have to find a way through it. That lets us tell the story. I don't think he would tell you, like, if I know that broccoli is buggy, I don't think he'd say don't check the broccoli or don't wash it. I think he'd say check it, wash it. But like, if you don't find any bugs, and you can, and you're like, well, maybe there are some in there. It's like, no, you know what? You can't see them. All right, I didn't love that explanation, but they're also disgusting. And at the end of the day, like, okay, you did what you could, and there's really good halachic grounding as to why they actually are batel from here on. Um, so
I'm surprised there was no. I was expecting more of a thought of like how could it be chashivut? Like, don't they lose their chashivut because it's sort of like safek if they're there? Does that make sense? Because it's
yeah,
a combination of those factors to me that seems to be more strong, which is like, how could they be chashiv if they're like sort of hiding in everything?
good. So this is,
It's not.
yeah, oh, they're everywhere. They're
That's
not.
not a birya. That's not the birya of like, oh, I have this idea that I'm eating a bug. No, I'm not thinking about the fact that I'm eating a bug. They're not chashiv at all
Yeah, I
because
think,
they're too
yeah.
small, too prevalent. I don't know exactly why, but
So good. I mean, I think part of the problem here is that we do have, if you looked at Pei Dalet in the Shulchan Aruch, he's pretty clear on things that are known to be buggy are probably, you got to check them. And that's,
right. But
um,
that's why he's starting off by saying even those who are trying to check are not succeeding.
yes, yeah,
Really a fundamental problem here that like checking is he doesn't just go into checking in depth, right? Because he says basically there are those who are checking, it's not helping.
yeah, you're right. And that's maybe what the other way he would say it is like this all worked in the days of in the Shulchan Aruch when checking was feasible, but in our world, in some things, checking is not feasible. But good. I end there. We will do Chazara. And I don't know if Rav Lexi wanted to get a last word or anything that we missed, or it was um, Chazara on Thursday, and so we can go over this a little bit more. But hopefully this was a good. And we're back to Sadi Tet next week with Rav Nachum, who just couldn't be here this week. So we did Biryah this week for that reason. All right. Yeshua Koach, everybody.